What is up, my YouTube family? Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, then it's just welcome to my channel and not welcome back. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button because you will not be disappointed unless of course your taste level is lacking, and if that's the case, I don't know what to tell you because I don't have those kind of problems. Y'all, I hope y'all have been very well. I don't know if it was the eclipse, child. I don't know if it was because I had taken them little days off my Lexapro or a mixture of the two. I have this horrible habit of falling off the wagon. Like, I'll forget to take it one day. That one day will turn into 2, 3, and then I think I'm pretty sure I hit 4 days before I realized, like, girl, you're about to start glitching, okay? Take your medicine. So I started back taking it, and then around like the 3rd day of being back on it, I think I had knocked off my equilibrium, child. I don't know what happened, but I was like stuck in bed, could not get out. Did not want to do anything except for like what I had to do. Mama could barely function, okay? I was malfunctioning. But today is the first day that I woke up feeling a lot better. I feel like I'm a little more balanced, okay? I'm feeling good. So I'm here to film this video, and I'm going to edit it and upload it all in the same day. It is what, Friday? Yes, it's Friday. And I have some imports, some new plants delivering today. So I am going to try to get that filmed as well, like a little unboxing as well as a plant tour of the room. Right quick before I get into today's video, let me give y'all a update on y'all's nephew. It has been hot here in Houston for a couple of days, and so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna clean out my son's doggy pool and let him frolic in the backyard in his pool. I clean the pool out, scrub it real good, get it set up. I go to get the water hose. I turn around to see y'all's nephew already in the empty pool smiling at me. So I fill it up, of course. He gets to frolicking around, having the time of his life. Blue loves to swim. He likes to be in water, whether he is taking a bath, whether he is in his little kiddie pool. He's been in a pool that's as deep as 12 feet, and he just does laps around it. He loves the water. Bella, however, you want to get in, mama? You want to get in, please? Just want to look. She ain't going for it. She'll get in the pool if I'm in the pool, and then I'll have to hold her. But other than that, she is not fooling with the water at all. And then he's so spoiled. He is a huge baby, and he is a mama's boy to his little tiny core. So after he got done swimming in the heat, running around the yard some, playing with his little balls, he comes in and he wants to be held, but he was still kind of damp, so I have to wrap him in a blanket to hold him. And then he wanted to keep the ball in his mouth, and I'm like, sir, you can barely breathe on your back. Are you trying to hold a ball in your mouth? Like, let me just, I take the ball out of his mouth. He looking like, where is it going? I tuck it right there, and then he just relaxes, and he is just in bliss. And when I hold him like this, I'm not gonna lie, I rock him and I sing to him. And that's why I don't like to let him hear too many songs, because then he gonna realize mama can't sing. He loves my voice. I don't want to take that magic from him. He might be a big baby, but that's my big baby, so it's okay. That's all I got. I'm still collecting receipts, irrefutable receipts, because like I say, y'all like to take up for Bella. I got a few. Bella has been up to her usual menacing behavior, but that's my girl, so I ain't gonna give her too much. I'm gonna go ahead and get into today's story, which is that of Dana Chisholm. And this is a very bizarre case. Dana Chisholm is born in York County, North Carolina, August 30th of 1969. Her parents have a total of 3 children, with her being the oldest and having a younger brother and a younger sister. They grow up in Rock Hill, which is one of the largest cities in South Carolina. And Dana has a very normal upbringing. According to her family, she showed high intelligence and drive at a very young age. She participated in dancing, cheerleading, and she loved to read. And mama could also sing. She was a member of her high school's choir, and she had always been really passionate about her gifts. Her father has actually compared her singing voice to Whitney Houston's. And as a lot of teens do, Dana hits a bit of turbulence regarding her behavior as a teen, partaking in the devil's lettuce. She even runs away at one point, but she does return home and finishes high school strong in 1987. The year after, she enrolls into King's Business College, and she completes that program. Afterwards, she decides that she wants to move out of her hometown, so she relocates to Washington, D.C. For her, not only is this a fresh start, but an opportunity for her to pursue her dreams of becoming a singer. But unfortunately, while singing was honest work, it was not quite paying the bills. So Dana reluctantly searches for a a job to supplement her income and support herself. She ends up landing a job at the Hudson Institute working as a secretary and is very well liked there. Always kind, always helpful, always smiling, and is always pleasant. And although this is always her demeanor, her boss would later say that he had always sensed a bit of sadness about her, like something was troubling her behind that bright smile of hers. It's part of the reason that when she is late for work, which is often, he looks over it, not really wanting to add to whatever she had going on in her personal life. Besides, she does make up for it with her bright presence and her work performance. Even with the secretary job, Dana is not making a whole lot of money, so the most cost-effective living arrangement for her is a basement apartment that she rents from a woman who lives in the upper part of the home with her son. The house is located on the northern side of town near Rock Creek Park and was, at least at the time, because I don't know how it is now, it was a relatively nice neighborhood with a senator and the director of the FBI as their neighbors. Now, roughly 18 months after moving to DC, just after 1 a.m. on the morning of February 27, 1995, Dana's parents receive a very odd phone call. The caller is a male who identifies himself as Lieutenant Louis Douglas of the Metropolitan Police Department, and in a very upbeat, boisterous, almost excited tone, he tells them that he's calling to inform them that their daughter has been arrested for prostitution during a sting at the Omni Hotel. He gives them a phone number where they could reach him later if they have questions, and he assures them that Dana will be calling them after she is arraigned and released the following morning, but for now they'll just have to wait until that happens. And this call is very shocking, to say the least. They had last heard from Dana 2 days after Valentine's Day. She had sent home a Valentine's Day card with money in it for them, and they had called to thank her. In that conversation, she had also told them that she would be making time to come see them soon, but they had not heard from her since then. Her parents wait a couple of hours hoping to hear from her, but when the afternoon comes and they have not received that phone call from Dana that they were expecting, they attempt to call her phone and there is no answer. They give it a couple more hours and decide to call the lieutenant back at the number that had been provided to them. And this is where things get weird. Lieutenant Louis Douglas answers the phone and sounds remarkably different from the man that they had spoken to earlier. And as if that is not strange enough, Lieutenant Douglas has no recollection of having a previous phone call with her parents. He claims to know nothing about their daughter being arrested, and he sounds genuinely as confused as Dana's parents are hearing this from him. Furthermore, he is able to check and confirm that there is no arrest record for Dana. It had not been Lieutenant Douglas who had called her parents, but it was definitely somebody pretending to be. And whomever was pretending to be Lieutenant Louis Douglas had, for whatever reason, given his true phone number for them to follow up with. And as they continue to talk, things continue to become more bizarre. Even though she had not been arrested, Lieutenant Douglas is familiar with Dana. He had responded to a call that had come in from her a couple of weeks prior when she reported that her TV had been stolen, but he had not spoken to her since the police report had been filed. Now, this really worries her parents, and Lieutenant Douglas finds it to be odd as well. So he agrees to go out and do a welfare check to make sure that she is okay. Now, he starts with making a few phone calls. He calls her employer. They had not heard from her. Next, he goes out to her residence, knocks on the door, and receives no answer. He leaves a business card with instructions to call him back, and he also writes on it, "I'll be back," and tapes it to the door. And at around 6 p.m. that same day, one of Dana's co-workers reaches out to her landlord, the lady that lives upstairs, Cynthia Ford, because the entire day has gone by now and nobody has heard from Dana. She might have been late, but being a no-call, no-show was not something that she had done before. It was very out of character for her. The co-worker asked the landlord to go down into her apartment and check on her just to make sure everything is okay. She agrees to do so, but when she enters Dana's apartment, the first thing she notices is that the place had been completely trashed. And Dana herself is lying face up on the hallway floor right outside of her bedroom. Cynthia immediately calls the police. The medical examiner that comes out and takes a look at the crime scene estimates that Dana had been deceased for about 24 hours prior to being discovered. She had been strangled with a cord that was still wrapped around her neck, and further examination of her reveals something that came as a shock to her parents. Dana was 4 weeks pregnant. Now, 2 weeks ago, when they had spoken to her to thank her for the Valentine's Day card, she had mentioned to them during one of the upcoming weekends she planned on driving home to discuss something big with them, but she didn't say what it was. So it is assumed that she was planning on revealing the pregnancy to them. She had already told a few of her friends as well as her co-workers, and according to them, she was not all that excited about this pregnancy. She had actually cried about it at work when she first found out. Analyzing her apartment, they find that there is no sign whatsoever of forced entry. The lock on the door that leads to outside was locked, but a key to the door was found outside. They were unsure if this was a key that she had purposefully outside of her unit in case of an emergency and she was locked out, if her attacker had accessed it and then just discarded it on his way out, or if she had given this key to somebody that she trusted who then attacked her and discarded the key outside. And the note that Lieutenant Douglas had left on the back of the door was still there because she was of course deceased at the point in which he had come out to check the apartment. All of the neighbors are interviewed, with none having seen or heard anything out of the ordinary, not even Cynthia and her son who live right above her. They take a more thorough look inside of her apartment, hoping that while trashing the place, the assailant had somehow dropped some form of evidence. But the only thing that they find that they feel like could possibly help them in their investigation is this journal that Dana had kept, listing various men, details about them like their profession, which ranges from businessmen to police officers, their phone numbers, places of employment, and also very detailed accounts of her romantic encounters with them. Now, they reach out to each of these men to get more detail on their relationship or dealings with Dana, and each of them have just about the same story. The things will begin as your typical romantic relationship, and because many of them are married men, Dana would use that as leverage, often asking them for funds after they had had relations. Now, they all make it very clear that she did not outright blackmail them, but she made them feel like it was in their best interest to pay her whatever she was asking for, whether it was her rent to be paid, pocket money, grocery money, etc. And several of them admit to paying her what she had asked for, fearing that otherwise she would expose them to their families. With this information, they believe that it's very likely that whoever had done this to her was on this list, and this person had likely ransacked her unit after the fact in search of any evidence of their relationship with her. Everyone on the list is a person of interest, and they interview them all. Unfortunately, though, they don't run across any additional evidence that helps them narrow down the list any further. The media's coverage of the case sparks significant public interest and also public outrage, which seemingly strikes a nerve with someone. One random evening, Sergeant Farish, a supervisor for the MPD homicide department, receives a very strange phone call. The man, who has a very raspy voice, refuses to give his name, and he doesn't speak with Sergeant Farish directly, but leaves voicemails at the sergeant's desk, telling the sergeant that he should really return his phone calls, but the man doesn't leave a number where he can be reached. And this is not a one-time thing. This man leaves these type of voicemails late in the evening for weeks before Sergeant Farish is able to catch a call. And when the sergeant answers, he doesn't hang up. He does talk to him. He tells the sergeant that, quote, "I know why she's dead. It's because of her lifestyle." Now, Sergeant Farish allows this man to speak without much input because he he wants to get the information out of the guy. And this man goes on to say that Dana was constantly going out to clubs just to drink and to meet men, and that people need to know the truth about her and what she was doing. He also alleges that she would have relations with multiple men at the same time, and the tone in which he speaks about her sounds very callous, very cold, and it is very clear to him that he feels that Dana deserved what had happened to her. Now, the sergeant pretends to agree with the man, who keeps on reiterating that the public needs to know the truth about Dana's nature and what she was up to. So Sergeant Farish assures the man that he will, he'll make sure that happens. However, instead, when Sergeant Farish is interviewed by the Washington Post, he speaks very highly of Dana and her talents and describes her as this all-American sweetheart, the type of woman that any mother or father would be proud of their son for bringing home. And this really irritates the mystery caller. Over the next several months, the calls come in sporadically, and the man expresses his disappointment in Sergeant Farish for painting her in such a good light. And then he tells the sergeant that he would like to finally meet up and discuss the details of Dana's murder in person. Sergeant Farish, of course, agrees to meet up with him. He tells him whenever and wherever he wants to meet, he'll make it work. The man gives him a time and a place, and on that day, the sergeant is very eager to meet this man. He drives his unmarked police cruiser to the location that the man had chosen, which was in the area east of the Potomac River. Sergeant Farish is early, okay? Not just on time. He sits there waiting for the man for hours, and he never shows up. And not only does he never show up, he never calls the sergeant again. Now, there is no way to tell for sure if this is the same man that called Dana's parents that morning, but it is believed to be. Police were able to trace that call made to Dana's parents that morning. It had been made on a payphone at an intersection approximately 4 miles from Dana's apartment and just a couple of blocks away from police headquarters, leaving investigators to wonder if it were one of their own. After all, some of the men on the list in her journal were police officers. Furthermore, they had known an actual lieutenant to pose as and had known his actual desk phone number. And of course, if anyone would know how to cover their tracks and taunt police at the same time, I'd imagine a police officer would be pretty good at that. Unfortunately, though, as time goes on and more details emerge specifically regarding these strange phone calls, what the caller said, as well as the journal that Dana had kept, the media's narrative begins to shift. They focus more on the nature of these phone calls. They even dive into her background and get into the trouble she was in as a teenager. They highlight her relationships that she had with these men, her relationships with these men, and personal ads that they had also managed to dig up become the focal point in the news coverage, sensationalizing and overshadowing the investigation into her homicide and completely skewing the public's perception of her. And even as time goes on, without them finding any new leads, any new evidence, Sergeant Farish continues to keep his eye on the case. He makes several public appeals to this mystery man, hoping that one day he would hear from him again and find out who he is. Now, what I'm wondering is if they had tested the DNA of the fetus to try to find out who the father was, and I could not find that they had done that anywhere. I would think that they would have, especially considering the fact that she was not excited about the pregnancy. If she wasn't excited, it's very possible that the father wasn't either, especially if he was a married man with a family at home. Although I don't think that alone would be enough to prove that he was the guilty party, but it would be a start. We could look into his background. I'm sure it's something there. Dana's case is still an open and active one, but there have been no further developments, unfortunately, and the mystery man remains a mystery. And that is pretty much it for this video. Please let me know your thoughts down below. Like the video, share the video, subscribe if you have not. I just received a package of imports of plants, so I'm about to go down there and get in that. My friend wants me to do a live unboxing, but I don't know about that. I know for sure they'll be posted on my Instagram story. As always, I appreciate you so much for spending your time with me, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Peace. Got my stomach boiling like a pot of greens, baby. I hope y'all can't hear it. South Carolina and... okay, no. For her, this is not only a fresh tart. Girl, what is it? And why is my foundation dripping off my finger? I ain't got time for this today, baby. I ain't got time. Besides, she makes up for it with her bright presence and her worth ethic, girl? No. With a senator and also the director of the what? This really worries her parents. It's very odd to almost call this man Lieutenant Dan. Oh. It is also very odd to almost say Lieutenant Dan again. Oh. And so next he goes out to her residence. I was about to say they ain't heard from her. What are you talking about, bro? Get it together. The lady asked the landlord to go no, she will be going downstairs, girl. Downstairs to the basement. Chill. Who at my front door? You have successfully scared away the UPS man, please. My plants just delivered. Yay. Hey, mommy. Security dog. This man's name is not Lieutenant Dan. Listing various men's. A supervisor for the Metropolitan Police. Child, just say MPD at this point. I ain't got time. That was not a stomach ground. That's a storm brewing.